Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Bogz.
Man, look at me doing 2 videos in a week.
Sure.
Thank goodness for animation being free from the strike. What's up, guys? We're here to talk about the season 2 premiere of Invincible, dropped on Amazon Prime last night, Thursday night, whenever you're watching this. Bogz and I have both watched it. We're here to talk about it first because we weren't around when season 1 was out. Bogz, what did you think of season 1 of Invincible first and foremost? Because you and I haven't talked about it.
Right, yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I was actually referred to it by Sol. She after I think the same night the first episode dropped, she asked me to watch it.
Mhm.
You will love this, etc. So I did a little watch along with her, and I loved it. I thought it was okay, and then the last 5 minutes just blew my mind, and yeah, and I was super excited every episode after that, and I loved it by the end. I mean,
Yeah.
the storytelling that they do, the mythology, the world building, how it kind of obviously it is originally via a comic book, but the references and it pulls from other pop culture and other superheroes, um, a bit similar to the boys, but it's very different. I mean, I absolutely my favorite character by far is Omni-Man. I think he's brilliant. I love Mark as well. And there's so many side characters that are voiced brilliantly. Like the character acting within the voice acting, I appreciate as well. And their little side stories. Um, for example, Cecil, played by Walter Goggins, he doesn't have a massive role in the show, but he comes in for 2 minutes, and he's so intriguing, and the dialogue is so good. Yeah, and I really like, and it doesn't sound great, but I really like the violence in this show, like the cringe, like you're almost looking through your fingers, anime-ish level violence, cringe, blood splattering everywhere, and people's head exploding and things like that. Just like realistic violence you would kind of link to superheroes when they kind of lose control and things like that. So, and the creativity of the show as well with the superhero and the powers and stuff. So, I absolutely love the show. It blew me away how surprised I was with it because I had no clue about the comic book or anything like that. I just thought, I'll give it a try because so asked me to. I'm so glad she did because I loved it.
It's one of those shows that I didn't watch it for the first time until earlier this year.
Hmm.
It was one of those I just kept putting it off and putting it off, and I heard everyone was like, "Oh, it's like animated The Boys," and I'm like, "Cool, but I've got The Boys. I'll watch that eventually." And I never read the
Right.
comics.
Hmm.
My younger brother, who hates most things just in the world, was like, "The show is awesome," and I'm like, "Well, if he likes it, then there must be something to it." But
Right.
kind of like, yeah, I had heard everyone say that it was like The Boys, so I watched the first episode, and I had to pause it like halfway through, and I turned to my brother, and I was like, "This isn't making me laugh," and he's like, "It's not a
Right.
comedy," and I was like, "Okay, gotcha." Once I understood, because I went into it thinking, "Oh, animated The Boys, I'm gonna laugh a whole bunch."
Right. Right.
So when it was explaining to me, like, no, it's actually just kind of it's like a superhero melodrama. It's like The Boys without the comedy. I'm like, okay. So now, then and then, like you said, I got to the end of the first episode, and my brother looked at me, and I was just like,
What did I just
what
watch?
is
Yeah.
happening?
Uh,
And then absolutely, I blew through the whole show in a weekend. I was like, this
right.
is the characterization, the storytelling in this show is in this series is, I mean, it's really incredible. The father son dynamics,
Mm,
the way that
mhm.
they're able to translate real world issues into
Yeah.
superhero issues, like just him and Omni-Man playing catch, throwing the ball around the curvature of the earth and back to each other is like, it's such a father son thing, but it's also such a superhero thing.
Mhm.
It's so good. And so to be back in it for season 2, was very excited. I actually forgot this was dropping this week, and then somebody put up a post on Twitter that said, like, we get Loki, Gen V, and Invincible in the same night. Okay. And then I thought about it. Boggs, what did you think of the season 2 premiere of Invincible?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Really happy to be back in this universe and catching up with the characters because pretty much left on a cliffhanger with the end.
Yeah,
How Omni Man
quite
left
literally
Mark.
on a cliff.
Yeah, right, right. And then you do actually visit that scene of, I think, of when it was where he was left there. But yeah, I was dying to know what's the state of the world. Um, you know, after kind of Omni Man kind of destroyed Mark and left him for dead there. But I wanted to catch up with everyone. How's his mom doing? Where's Mark? where's Omni-Man? You know, we
Mhm.
got all of them pretty much within the first 5 minutes. And then obviously I did see the trailer, so I understood they're doing some kind of different dimensions, almost multiverse type stuff. And I was just happy to see how in the first episode, it fully sold it out. Okay, this is how they're doing this portal, different dimension stuff. This is the character. It's a new enemy. This is what's happening. Was it the best episode of the Invincible series? But I actually disagree with something that you said there, Mike. I think the show is really funny, subtly,
Let me
extremely
rephrase. It's not slapstick funny like The Boys is. The
right.
Boys is like I'm gonna a lot of orgy jokes
Right, right,
and
right.
and kind of gross out humor. This is
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah,
this
yeah,
is subtle humor, and
it
so
is.
it's more just kind of like as opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. It's like that. Yeah,
like I'm not guffawing every time that
right,
Billy Butcher walks on screen and says the C word, but I am like enjoying Seth Rogen, and I forget the name of that alien's name, but and Mark sitting on rocks just having a back and forth on the moon. Like that was
right.
funny in its own way.
Yeah, really
I'll
witty
say I will
dialogue.
give you that. Yes, I will give you that.
Yes. Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's like little sniggle, like just little chuckles that you have to yourself because it's like quite layered, and they refer to other things as well. Quite like sharp dialogue. They quite snappy and sarcastic as well. So I really like that kind of the way it's written. To be honest, between the characters, the subtle moments and jokes and things like that. But no, I thought it was a really good return. Catching up, just literally, it was like ticking off boxes with every single character. All his friends at school, his mother, all the other superheroes, and just letting us know, the audience, where we are with the story. Okay, Mark's going through these issues, contemplating where he belongs in the whole kind of superhero thing, and then we have this new villain introduced as well, and then um, and on top of that, the whole portal thing got introduced, and we seeing that he's a new enemy basically. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I wasn't blown away like some of the season one episodes were, but I'm sure that will be coming later on. It was a catch up from how the season one was left off.
I think you're absolutely right. This was not my favorite episode of television or favorite episode of the show, but I
Sure.
do think as a season premiere for setting up where we're going this season, I thought it did a very good job. Like, okay, I get where we're going this season. Mark's got to get over this stuff with his dad. He's got
Mm,
to he's got to prove himself to not only Cecil but to the Immortal and Seth Rogen's character, who I still cannot remember the name of, um, that he's not his father, but also to
mm,
himself.
mhm,
And it's like they do a really great job of working into the dialogue that it's only been a month since the attack happened,
mhm,
and that's not a lot of time. And so we are getting to, because I think it'd be different if we came back and it was like however many years it had been and he still wasn't over it. Like, yeah, no, picking up essentially right where season one left off, give or take a few weeks,
right.
is a great way to still be living with the tension of the world getting over what happened with Omni Man.
Mhm,
And I am just, yeah, I'm intrigued by the story they've set up is what I can say. Like it didn't have the like big hair ripping out, oh my god, what's happening moment that the season one premiere did, but the season one premiere
mm,
had to make a statement because nobody knew what Invincible was. It
right.
wasn't as widely known of a property. Now
Sure.
it's like we don't have to make as big a statement. Let's just set up our story.
Yeah. It did have a one of them what the hell moments though, when I think in the first 5 minutes, the way they killed Omni-Man, particularly killed Immortal,
Oh
like the way
yeah.
he twists both his arm off and crushes his eyes into his head. Like, yeah, I think I was watching. I saw it like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and obviously they're kind of big explosions. Yeah, just like seeing the action of all the superheroes fighting each other, and they're all going through their different journeys. I really, really like. In fact, they didn't actually deal with it, I don't believe, in this episode, but Omni Man's backstory of
Mhm.
how his planet and what they do to other planets, and what they did refer to, him obviously talking about his Mark's mother, and how he loved her, but like a pet, and she deals with that directly and how upset she was with it. and, she's talking to that friend who I don't really trust as well. There was something a bit fishy. Well, she nearly, like, I thought she was going to attack her with that knife and stuff. But yeah, lots to like in this episode. But yeah, I can't wait to see the drama to unfold and Omni-Man to come back as well. So it was a nice tease for what's to happen later on in the season.
I really hope we get to see some more of these other dimensions. I really
Yeah.
liked the one we saw at the beginning, which was
Mhm.
such a great tease from the trailer.
Mm,
I
mm.
love that they addressed that right away in episode 1, because even seeing it in the trailer, you're like, okay, there's got to be something else to the whole
Yeah.
mark on the video. So I was glad they not, but I was also like, but if we're doing this multiversal, I want to see what other kind, like when Sterling K. Brown's character shows he's got his all of his other selves with him. I'm
Hmm.
like, I want to go to some of these worlds. And I love that the
Yeah.
Maulers were like, we want a world to rule that has no superheroes and everyone thinks we're gods and has really good food. Um,
Yeah.
by the way, I loved the callback to what happened in season 1 with Pete, where he's like, no, you step away from the door if you want food from me.
Mm,
And then when they go to whatever that other alternate place is in
right.
the future or whatever, it's Pete's dead body right there. And you're like, ah, poor Pete.
Yeah. And also all the callbacks of they're actually saying Invincible in terms of, not
Oh,
showing the title card. Oh, that's like really childish, but it did get a laugh out of me every time because
the
you're like
second or
almost on the edge of my seat, like, are they gonna say it? And then I'm like, what am I doing? This is so
it got to a
ridiculous.
point where I was
Yeah.
like, they might not do it. We're all the episode's
Yeah.
almost over.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very good.
Um, yeah. And I will say that having the different dimensions and everything. The one negative I'll say about the episode, although I did enjoy some of it, but at the time, like in the moment, maybe it left a lingering thing in my mind for about 30 seconds. When I was watching the scenes, I didn't know, and I guess it's intended. I didn't know if it was present day at times or like if other dimensions. I was getting slightly confused, like one scene at a time. I was like, okay, so where are we now? Because Immortal, obviously, we know he gets killed off in season 1, but he comes
Yeah.
back again, and then he's killed off again, and then he's back again. So like, what? And then oh yeah, he's immortal, and then like I have to kind of jump back and forth and remember. Maybe that's my own fault because I didn't kind of rewatch season 1 before this. But I do get just slightly confused, and then like a couple minutes later, I realize, okay, this is happening, or they kind of talk it out. Just immediately, maybe it's me, I wasn't sharp enough in terms of splitting the scenes and the timelines. But
Yeah.
I was getting a little confused watching it at times. I don't know if you felt that at all.
I did. No, I'm 100% with you. I don't think, because as opposed to like the MCU or like DC when they do multiversal stuff, there's an aesthetic difference to the different
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
universes where you
It
can
looks exactly the
visually
same.
tell.
Yeah, you're right.
This everything looked exactly the same, so I wasn't sure if he was taking them to a different universe or a different
Mm.
location, or so no, there was a couple times and again, also I didn't read the comics either, so
Yeah.
it's I'm not, and I know they took some liberties with the story last
Mm,
season, so who's to say? But
mm.
yeah, no, I agree. There were a few times it was a little hard to tell if what we were seeing had stakes on
Yeah.
our world.
Yeah, at times, like not all the
Not
time.
always.
Obviously, the first 5 minutes, it was intended like, oh, okay, this
Yeah.
could be, the current kind of timeline. But like obviously later on, where we see like, for example, all the Maulers and stuff, they look different, or like they went to that other kind of planet where it was like a kind of plain landscape and stuff. Obviously,
Mhm.
that's a different and he's explaining, yes, we're going to go to this different place and stuff like. I do really like that villain who's played by Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah.
He just added a lot of depth and like intelligence and like a mix between like Doctor Strange and I don't know, like just some other kind of
Yeah.
portal timeline villain
I was trying to figure out
thing.
who he reminded me of, and I couldn't,
Yeah,
because usually any character in Invincible, I can
yeah,
be like, "Ah, they remind
yes,
me of
link it. Yeah,
blank
yeah.
from the," like, in the beginning of this one, there's that elephant-looking guy. I'm like, "Okay, that's clearly a spin on the Rhino,"
I
you
think
know?
it was yeah, exactly. I think it was Doctor Strange and the Spot, kind of from the
Yeah.
Spider-Man villain.
I
Yeah, it was
can
like them
I
too
can
with the dimensions and um
but also
yeah.
like
So
the idea of him being kind of created by the hero by accident, which is a
yes,
common comic book trope to begin with. Like, yes, some of the hero,
Exactly. Yes.
they
Yes.
create their own villains. It's
Yes.
the reality
I'll
of the
get him
universe.
now because he's destroyed my world, kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. And
Well,
it
and
gives
also
him
having
kind of
that much
extra incentive.
getting that much energy zapped into your brain's probably got to drive you a little nuts too. I mean,
Mhm.
robot's not exactly stable. Which
Right. Yeah.
it was a real I like that Robot was one of my favorite characters from season 1, and already in the first episode of this season, they're continuing with this, like, he's processing fear for the first time.
Right.
Because
Right. Right.
again, it's only been a month since he cloned himself from Jason Mantzoukas' body.
Exactly.
So glad he's back as Rex, by the way. And yeah, he felt remember she was like, "Remember the first time you had to go to the bathroom and how freaked out you were?" And I was like, "Yeah, if you've never had a body before, this gotta be kinda weird." Star Trek did that with The Next Generation when Q was a human for a day. When he had
Mhm.
to sleep the first time, and he was like, "I was just sitting there, and I lost consciousness for, like, 8 hours." I'm like, "Yeah, you fell asleep." So it's kinda I like that we're getting that. It just continues to make Robot, like, one of the more interesting characters on the show.
Yeah. And talking about Star Trek, I did get flashes of um, Data with
Yeah.
not necessarily in this episode, but just generally how he is. Just like a super strong, intelligent,
He's
logical robot.
Data
Just
without,
remind
like, a
me.
moral compass. Like, he's gonna do what he thinks is logical. He's almost
Mm,
like a Borg, and he's like Data and a Borg mixed together. Like,
mm.
he's operating from a place of logic, but also curiosity, but also, like, he's gonna do what he's gonna like, working with the Mahler twins is not necessarily good behavior, but it's a means to an end. And
Yeah,
the
definitely.
science side of him is like, I need to experience this. So,
Mm.
also, when you
I,
see the way Robot was living, that's no way to live.
yeah, yeah. And you mentioned as well, like these characters are unhinged, and I really like that about the show. Like, season one, throughout the episodes, you wouldn't know. Well, I didn't find it predictable where a character would turn, or like a character would flip out, or like join the villain side midway through like a battle scene. Like I found that super engaging and exciting. Like, oh, you don't know where the story's gonna go, each character arc or journey, and then you kind of maybe learn about their backstory a little bit, so you kind of be empathetic with them, or you kind of root for them, or sometimes you don't. So I do like the kind of twists and turns throughout the episodes and stuff, and just like a kind of bombshells that they drop on you, and the violence that occurs with that, the consequences and stuff. Not just for the people immediately in the scene, but like for the world, because they destroy buildings and homes and just regular people. The scale of the violence is really exciting, and
'Cause you gotta
it's
remember
thrilling, honestly. Story.
from season 1, like, when Invincible and Omni-Man were fighting, like, he
Mhm.
punched Invincible so hard, he flew across the country to New York City. Like, they
Mhm.
were out, like, in a field in, like, Kansas or something like that, and he punched him so hard and it's like, yeah, this was a massive fight, like,
You know what it reminds me of, Mike? It reminds me, you and me are DC fans.
I was about to bring this up. Are you about to say what I think you're about to say?
I don't know. You
Maybe.
go first.
Metropolis and Gotham City and BVS?
Yeah, not just BVS, just the whole.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna say Snyder style of action,
yeah.
whether it's Superman as Zod or BVS, that them guys there. Just the level of action and violence and destruction. That's the closest thing that I've seen to that, and I like that. So a lot of people don't like this. That's fine, but in terms of superhero action stuff, the kind of Snyderverse uh, ac- action kind of choreography, let's say,
Yeah.
this is similar. So being thrown into mountains and I like the way it's not just the physical stuff and the action scenes and what's being presented on screen. It's the dialogue as well. Like I love the way Marlo say, "Oh, he's stronger than he looks." Like it's not just a cool action scene. There's like subtlety to it. Like there's like a respect and acknowledgement. That's what I mean. The dialogue is so important because it keeps you engaged. It doesn't just make it mind-numbing action. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, he's stronger than he looks. Like that's why they think they can take him, and that's why he's super excited to go hand to hand with them because he can flex his muscles because he's proving how invincible he is. He earns that title. So yeah, yeah, I love the kind of Snyderverse style action stuff. It does
Yeah.
make me smile every time they do it.
You're absolutely correct, because when you look at how the MCU versus DC does action, MCU is very much like it's like they do their action, and not a positive or negative, but like MCU is they're there to make their action look good,
It's stylized, yeah, yeah.
stylized, whereas like the Snyder style of action is more like, no, like if Superman moved that fast, this is what the fights would look like. It'd be a lot of zooming and sonic booms and kind of
Mhm.
wanton
I agree,
destruction
I
and
agree. It's
and
subtlety.
subtlety. Yeah, it's like, yeah, if people are moving that fast, the average person is not going to see much.
Mhm.
It's going to be, and if they're that strong, it's going to be a lot
Mm.
of like, I remember one of the
Blood,
scenes in,
guts,
yeah. Well,
bones
I mean,
being broken, like, you would that's what
Omni-Man
would happen.
putting Invincible through a subway car in
Right,
DC lives rent free in my head.
right.
Like, that sequence was one of the most brutal things I've ever seen on television. But like, to your point, as gory, or even like even like when he takes out the Guardians in the first episode of season 1, like it's it's gory, but at the same time, like sometimes with the boys, and this is not a negative, but the boys is gory for the sake of being gory. Like they're trying to just be kind of, but again, that's kind of the charm of the boys, is that excessive, kind of like Deadpool. This
Yeah,
is
they're
more,
unashamedly
yeah,
gory, right? Mhm.
this is more like gore with a purpose of like,
Right.
no,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is what
I
it
agree.
would be like if he did this. This is
Mhm.
how messy it would be. It doesn't feel gratuitous or shocking. It just feels real.
Yeah, and you mentioned MCU there, and I have to say Cecil so reminds me of Nick Fury. Um,
Yeah.
just like the overseer of these superheroes. In a certain way, it has good intentions in terms of managing, tries to keep these guys under control, almost. Um, I don't know if there is, but like it seems like he's got them contractually obliged and adherent to certain things, but at the same time, he's quite conniving as well. Like goes behind their back, or wants to put a leash on them and use them as and when he wants to. And I like the way they have to answer to somebody, because it's not just a free for all. Like, you be a vigilante, you be a hero today, and you just do your thing. He's like the agency that's overseeing everything, and he'll go to their house, or
Mhm.
he'll go seemingly like he cares. Sometimes he'll go above and beyond, but he always has an ulterior motive, that he can't really be trusted. A bit like obviously Viola Davis as well, a little bit in the DCU.
Yeah.
Like, you can sort of trust them, but you couldn't. If it was me, I wouldn't trust them, kind of thing. But we know that as the audience, but
Yeah.
them characters seemingly think that they are an authority figure and things like that. So I do like the comparables there with the senior figures in the
Yeah.
DCU and the MCU. But yeah, I really like
Cecil is
Cecil as well.
absolutely an amalgamation of Amanda Waller and Nick Fury. I
That's
mean,
it.
it's not even subtle, and it's not a
Yeah,
complaint. It's like, yeah, no, this is Waller and Fury, except I think he's got a much stronger moral compass than either of them do.
true,
I,
true. Yeah.
Secret Invasion notwithstanding, I thought that was kind of the most real world we'd seen Nick Fury in the MCU at that point. But like he's nowhere near as cold hearted as Amanda Waller is.
Mhm.
The way I kind of figured is like, the boys is what would happen if superheroes were celebrities. Invincible is like, no, what if superheroes were almost like an extension of the military? Because
Mm,
it's very much like, Cecil is very much part of like a under the radar government organization. It's very clear this is in some way, shape, or form government funded, and he's operating like a general directing troops. Like when he tells him in this episode, he's like, "Oh, see, you did that without a bunch of people getting killed. You see what happens when you go into these fights like with my direction? Like people don't die, there's less destruction." So that's what I appreciate about the character of Cecil, is he's almost like the less shady version of this
mm,
superhero wrangler. Like there's still machinations, but like in season 1, the reason he had machinations going on behind the scenes was because he didn't want to overplay his hand so Omni-Man caught wind. He wanted
mm,
to wait and take on Omni-Man when he knew we could take on Omni-Man, whereas Demon Detective
mm,
was like, "I'm gonna go get him now." And he's like,
mm.
"No, we need to know why he killed everybody, not just
Yeah.
that he killed everybody."
Mm,
So I like that Cecil isn't impulsive or doesn't lead. He's focused, and he I trust Cecil but I also am wary that he has ulterior motives that might be for the greater good, but maybe not for the good of our heroes.
Yeah. And even that, like, again, his dialogue when he mentions, like, oh, when he gives him feedback to say, like, okay, you're taking too long to take these guys down. Do we need some other help? What else can, like, he's trying to, again, for, as you said, for the greater good, seemingly, but potentially, um, obviously, we don't know yet, but potentially has things up his sleeve to twist that on them. And I have to say, Mark as well. Because of how good they told his story in season one, I'm invested in each arc that he goes on, whether it's the general superhero stuff that he's doing with the team of other heroes, or just the subtle thing of, like, the conversations with his mother, or with his girlfriend. How's he getting things? Like, I was kind of rooting for him with, Zazie Beetz' character. I'm like, I really want that to work, but I'm also dying to know what's he kind of what's going to happen when he meets up with his dad,
Mhm.
or what's going to happen with his next fight. Is he pulling his punches? Obviously we saw that he didn't, but he took an absolute beating. How is he handling that, via his, the last, we see that, like, he's building as a hero.
Mhm.
um and obviously we see this other dimension, portal thing, where he's joined with his father, and obviously parallels with Star Wars there, like seeing, like, an other dimension, joining the dark side kind of thing. We see the consequences of that and how brutal he is with these kind of civilian people, and paralyzing his friend. Um, and
Oh,
yeah, that was
when he
cruel.
broke Eve's neck, I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Eve, that
and then
was
he
the name.
tells her, he's like, "I would never kill her. I just and then him being like,
Yeah,
"Oh, that's what you were practicing on those protesters. Oh yeah, I got a place for her so I can go visit her whenever I want." I'm just
yeah,
like, this is
yeah.
psychopath behavior.
And how just casually he was like, "Yeah, I can just visit her whenever I want," like, and
And
then
she
move
what
on to go kill
and what's she
more
gonna do
people.
to stop you? She's paralyzed.
Right,
So
right.
she doesn't even want you there, but you can go visit her like like an animal in the zoo, like a
Yeah.
pet that you love. And I was just like, oh, we're
Right.
5 minutes in.
And the creativity of being that strong, and just the ideas that they come up with, of things that they would, through boredom almost, or being it too easy, so they just
Yeah.
come up with things of to, to end it, to, like, to somehow in a way show mercy to people by not being so brutal, because he did warn her a few times, and obviously, she can't do anything either way, so it's like, but like, almost a pretend
Yeah.
mercy thing. um and then obviously taking out all them civilians, um and how brutal, like, they kind of were with the other heroes, and how Omni-Man just moves people out the way and, like, rips their arms off and crushes them. Yeah, it's amazing, and
Yeah.
it's edge of the seat stuff, just
Well, it's
them being
you
them. Yeah.
mentioned the dialogue. I mean, in that first scene when he's like, "Well, you guys remember the resistance. Now we got to kill you. Sorry, it's just the
Mm,
way it is. You get it, right? It's just business. You resist it, or when he's fighting Eve, he's like, "Hey, I didn't have to kill those guys, but you made them fight us, so it's kind of on
mm,
you." It's that's so gaslighty and like it's so evil, but also like to the voice acting, like J.K. Simmons' delivery of as Omni Man of just like, "Well, now we got to kill you." Like it's yeah,
yeah.
like you said, it's so good. I could gush about this show. This is again not my favorite episode of television, but as far as a setup for this season, I am right back in and I'm on board and I'm
Yes.
ready to see what we're doing next. Um,
Yeah, pleasure to be back
yeah.
in this universe, and where we're gonna go next. Yeah, like, it leaves
Did
you
you
so
watch?
excited every
Did
week.
you watch the Adam Eve special by any
I did
chance?
not. I
Oh,
did
you did
not.
not?
No.
Pretty good. I'm curious because it's all Eve's backstory, so I don't know
Mm,
how, if at all, it's going to play into this season because I really don't know. I really don't know,
mhm.
but it was interesting that she actually did not have as big a character she is. She didn't have a ton of screen time this episode.
No, she didn't. No, I did notice that.
I think
Um,
it's maybe because she just had like an hour special all to herself. Maybe I don't know.
yeah, potentially, and obviously they do manage to give a lot of side characters a lot of airtime,
Yeah,
just throughout the season. So I'm sure that will come, because obviously there's a lot of story arcs with her. But yeah, I think it was just a catch up really with each character this episode. But
yeah.
we'll get into deeper story context moving forward, basically. But no,
Yeah.
I did notice that she was slightly left to the side.
Yeah. But we've got 3 more episodes this year. We're getting 4 episodes in 2023, and we'll get the other 4 in 2024, which is good because that means then because they'll be done. The holidays will happen, the new year will happen, and then I don't think they have a release date set for the other 4.
Check on that.
I don't. No, it just says early 2024, so we don't have an
Okay.
actual date. I would assume probably February. Because there's not a whole lot else coming out that early next year.
Okay.
So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the next 3 weeks of this show. Glad it's fun to be able to talk about things again.
Of course, yeah. Nice to have you.
Yeah, more cartoons, everybody, please. So yeah, we'll be back again next week to talk about this thing. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please let us know your predictions. If no spoilers if you've read the comics. Let us know down in the comments what you thought, where you think we're going, and what was your favorite moment from this week's episode. We'd love to know down below, and please let us know. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow us on social media. Am I forgetting anything? It's been a bit since I've done this.
No, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for being back. And if you guys miss Mike at all, let him know in the comments.
Yeah,
And
please tell me how much you miss me, and go watch our Hassan Minaj video. Thank you guys, everybody who tuned in for that and subscribed from that. Thank you so much. We'll keep tabs on stuff. We'll be hopefully some more stuff happens that I can talk about, and hopefully we resolve the strike soon. So thank you guys for watching. On behalf of Bogz and Soul, I'm Mike. We'll see you guys again next time here on Off the Wall.